So not unrelated, I think, is the Mark Zuckerberg news about creating AI friends for lonely kids. And this is so disturbing to me. I know it's not supposed to be. I think, Meta thinks we're going to be thrilled about this, but they've debuted a new mobile app that transforms the Meta AI chatbot into a more social experience, including the ability to share AI-generated creations with friends and family. And this AI chatbot will use whatever the company knows about you or your kid, your 20-year-old son, in its interactions. They can also use your conversations, any media you upload, for training the models. And Mark Zuckerberg thinks it's going to be wonderful because it's going to provide your child his next friend. Take a listen to him touting it with an interview with podcaster Dwarkesh Patel.
One thing just from working on social media for a long time is there's the stat that I always think is crazy. The average American, I think it's fewer than 3 friends, 3 people that they'd consider friends. And the average person has demand for meaningfully more. I think it's like 15 friends or something, right? There's a lot of questions that people ask of stuff like, okay, is this going to replace kind of in-person connections or real-life connections? And my default is that the answer to that is probably no. I think I think that there are all these things that are better about kind of physical connections when you can have them, but the reality is that people just don't have the connection and they feel more alone a lot of the time than they would like. There are a handful of companies and stuff who are doing virtual therapist and there's like virtual girlfriend type stuff, but it's very early.
Very early. What do we think? Is this something to be celebrated?
I mean, Chamath worked with Zuck, so I'll let him do that. But, I've never liked Zuck. And the reason people have 3 friends is because Zuckerberg created Facebook and Instagram and got everybody addicted to this stuff. So now he's saying you should have 15 friends. I use social media and champion kids using social media. I fought against any age gating or regulations against it, tooth and nail. Instagram and Facebook causing all of this, eating disorders in girls and, insecurity and all kinds of problems. And now he wants to take the 3 friends that are left out of 15 you should have and replace them with AI. This is the worst possible person to take any friendship, social advice from. And kids should not be, in all seriousness, on things like character AI or what he's proposing here, because they will disconnect and they will lose the skill of connecting with other humans, which we're seeing in a generation of boys and men who are what's called incels. They play video games, they get disconnected from other humans. Girls spend too much time on Instagram, they get disconnected from friendship. And this generation doesn't know how to actually go on a date or ask a girl on a date or have a relationship because they're so used to liking things and how many retweets did they get, how many likes did they get, and playing video games and how many levels they did. He caused half this problem himself. Terrible person to listen to. Chamath, over to you.
I think that society sort of swings back and forth between poles. And when Mark and I were working together in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and we were building Facebook, the pole that we were at, or we were moving towards, was one that was about creating more connection. And what I honestly think is people have realized that social media is an incredible business model. It's an incredible business, but it's not necessarily something that is great for everybody day to day in an emotional way. Like when that famous thing when you look at when you ask people who are dying, what are their biggest regrets? One of their biggest regrets is just that they didn't choose to be happy and spend more time with their family and their friends. That's a very physical, tactile experience. And what I see, at least in my own experience, is that young people have realized this innately. So, I sent my second kid to high school, or they're about to go into high school. They're a rising freshman. And we did the onboarding. And I remember this was last week. It was so vivid. The teachers presented what the kids thought on a whole bunch of different topics. The topic that the kids were the most negative on was social media.
Wow.
And when I look at what my children do now, and this just could be my children, but I don't think so because it's emblematic of our school, which I think will be emblematic of what most other schools will eventually look like. I think they're a bit of the leading edge, but they don't use this stuff nearly in the same way. They very much shunned Instagram. They very much shunned TikTok. They don't use Facebook at all. Those are products of our generation. And so I actually think that humans are very course correcting and self-correcting and error correcting. You know, it's kind of this idea of the Darwinistic genetic optimization of humanity, right? I think that that's what's happening here. I think that humans are learning that there's an innate sense of emptiness that is not fulfilled by something digital. And I think that they are learning, and I think it could be, you know, the teenage generation and beyond that actually manifest this, which is they're like, okay, those things are fine for a purpose, but for the most part, I'm actually going to hang out and talk to my friends. And I at least see that with my kids. There's much more entropy now towards being together. And I didn't see that in my older son, who was sort of at the tail end of that last generation of social media.
I think Chamath's
To me, it's like
right.
they saw this, we all saw this beautiful oasis in the desert, and it was sparkling and it was pure blue. And we got in and we said, oh my God, this is the most refreshing, lovely thing ever. And then over time, you realize it's closer to like a tar pit. And slowly, but we're trying to get out of, you know, the oasis. Like, my God, get this off of me. It was much better when I was just in the desert. I wanted to raise this with you. It was making the rounds online, and I looked it up. It's from a futurism.com. And they have taken a deep dive into the recent tell-all book by the former Facebook insider turned whistleblower Sarah Wynne Williams, who came forward with the information about how Instagram was targeting young girls in particular and has revealed a bunch of secrets about Meta, Facebook, Instagram. And listen to this. Her book is called Careless People. She writes that as early as 2017, Facebook was exploring ways to expand its ad targeting abilities to 13 to 17-year-olds across Facebook and Instagram, a decidedly vulnerable group, often in the throes of adolescent image and social crises. Though Facebook's ad algorithms are notoriously opaque, in 2017, The Australian alleged that the company had crafted a pitch deck for advertisers bragging that it could exploit, quote, moments of psychological vulnerability in its users by targeting terms like worthless, insecure, stressed, defeated, anxious, stupid, useless, and, quote, like a failure. The social media company, listen to this, likewise tracked when adolescent girls deleted selfies, this is according to Sarah Wynne Williams, quote, so it can serve a beauty ad to them at that moment. My God. Finishing up. Other examples of Facebook's ad lechery are said to include the targeting of young mothers based on their emotional state, as well as emotional indexes mapped to racial groups. To me, says Wynne Williams, this type of surveillance and monetization of young teens' sense of worthlessness feels like a concrete step toward the dystopian future Facebook's critics had long warned of. I mean, I have to say, Jason, same.
Yeah. I mean, Zuckerberg has always been obsessed with growth, and that organization, their DNA, you know, move fast, break things, which is a Silicon Valley ethos as well. You know, ask for forgiveness, you know, don't ask for permission, beg, don't beg for permission, ask for forgiveness kind of thing. It's a really broken philosophy when you're doing something selfish, like I want this social network to grow faster and faster and faster, because then you go do really pernicious, disgusting things like, if this is true, look at what selfies were deleted and say, oh, how can we prey on their insecurity? Oh, they didn't like, you know, whatever, their nose, their hair. Let's sell them products that work on those triggers. And all of these the whole social media revolution was based upon gamification, you know, and trying to manipulate people. That's why the like was created and the retweets, et cetera. And it's gotten super dark now because of algorithms. Now we're throwing our children to the wolves and saying, let the algorithm just optimize whatever happens. And you can send people on very, very dark routes. But Chamath is also right that there's a pendulum here. And, you know, one of the things that Jonathan Haidt, we had him on the All In podcast, and Freeberg and I interviewed him, you know, he was like, kids love when you have a phone locker at school. They hate it for the first 2 days. And then by day 2, 3, 4, these phone lockers, just like when you go to a comedy show, they put it in a bag. They have these phone lockers. They go in the front of the lobby of the school. You put your phone in, you take your key. The kids then get to interact with each other. And we all know this to be true because Chamath and I are very focused on our friend group and having good times together. We just got back from F1. We spent a weekend. We do a phone penalty. Chamath and I created this. And if somebody's on their phone during the poker game, they put $100 in the pot. The next person who slows the game down by putting it, they put $200 in the pot. Next person, $400. Like We've gotten it up to like $1,600. Pretty painful. We'll go to dinner. And Chamath and I will say, stack the phones. Everybody puts their phones. Whoever touches the phone first pays for dinner. If you're going to dinner with Chamath, the way he orders wine, this could be very... You pick up your phone, you could have bought 3 more phones. I'm not joking.
Don't touch the phone.
Max memory. Don't touch the phone. It's hilarious. So I think, we have to really think, like, what are we optimizing for here? And this is the thing I really hate about Zuckerberg. I don't want to get myself in too much trouble here. When you're worth $100 billion or $200 billion, is it really worth it to make an incremental 5 or 10 billion and then have your legacy being that young girls did self-harm or got anorexia, or this Jonathan Cena character, they created a character on, I don't know if you saw that story, Megyn, but they created like AI characters and they paid John Cena, the wrestler, to be one of them. Language models are not to be trusted with kids yet. I'm talking about ChatGPT type models. John Cena started having like sexual chats with, I think it was a 13 or 14 or 15-year-old girl on it. It's disgraziad. Zuckerberg is a complete disgrace with how he launches products. They have to red team these things. They have to be thoughtful. If you're in that organization, he did this whole PR tour. Oh, the organization's too feminine. We had too much feminine energy. We got to be more masculine. I don't think this is feminine or masculine energy. I think this is selfish energy. And he should be thinking about his legacy and what he'll be remembered for. Right now, the top 2 things he's going to be remembered for is being the biggest censor in history, because he censored massive amounts of political speech, health speech, et cetera, on a scale that nobody's ever seen. 2 or 3 billion people being censored. And then second, absolutely causing suffering in young children. He could just tomorrow come out, Megyn, and say, all of our services are age gated at 16. I made that decision because I'm the God King. He has super voting shares. It means he gets to decide. When he bought Instagram, WhatsApp, he didn't have to consult his board. He just bought them. He has super voting rights in that company. Just be a good human being, Zuckerberg. Somebody clip this and send him to him. Age gate the whole thing at 16. You know why he won't? He wants to get 12-year-old, 13, 14-year-old girls and boys addicted to the service so that somebody else doesn't get them addicted and he has them for life. It's absolutely disgraceful.
This July, there is a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset as BRICS nations push forward with their plans. Some worry global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset could mark a pivotal moment. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting MK to the number 989898. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Reset. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.